everyone, and welcome again to the Quantum Cafe and Interstellar Lounge with your host, the Cosmic Messenger. Today I wanted to talk about what a wonderful, amazing topic, astrology, evolutionary astrology specifically, and the importance and the role that it plays in our very daily lives. Now we're here on Earth, which Earth is a big planet, but in the vastness of the multiverse, it only occupies a small space. So, would not everything else around it affect us too? And that's the study that evolutionary astrology brings into the mix. So, where to begin? Because it's such a deep and endless topic that it goes it's a language, but we're just learning right now to really unravel the full capacity of what it truly all of the wisdom that it truly brings to us. So why would we use astrology? What purpose does it have? All those wonderful questions. So, you have a birth chart. This is a very good place to start. So when you're born, you have your coordinates, your birth times, your longitude, your latitude, and they all mix in. And then you get a readout of where the planets and the stars were. Constellations, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, etc. Those are all the signs, and we have a layout of them on your birth chart, and where they land is the very makeup of who you are. So simultaneously, these planets that a lot of people, or a lot of individuals at this point in time have been told that they're just, inanimate objects that aren't really alive, are actually constantly evolving with us at the very same time that we are evolving as well too. So it speaks of the very nature, the energies of what is going on the planet and how the humans are acting them out. That would be our signs, right? And each sign has a element that goes with it too. So fire, earth, air, water. There's 12 wheels on the astrology wheel. 12 sections called houses. So you just repeat fire, earth, air, water all the way around, and it just loops. You find them there too. So those bring additional qualities into the mix. Now that gives the astrology reader, or if you're highly invested in yourself, just to be able to go look, then you'll be able to go deeper into how these things work. So you have the 12 houses that go around. That is the arena that everything is happening in. You have the signs, Capricorn, Gemini, Sagittarius. Those are how we're acting them out, what's going on the stage. And then the planets bring the energies of really what kind of energetic rapport is happening and what's going on. And then each of the planets have its own makeup as well too. Now these planets, they interact. And the cool part about evolutionary astrology is it's constantly moving. It's constantly changing. It's constantly adapting and evolving itself. So as we are too, right? So it's there right when we need it, as we're there doing it simultaneously, and it's a co-creation. It's super cool stuff. So, yes, every time we discovered a new planet, it came right at the right time in space, because that's when our consciousness opened for those abilities to be rendered into us, right? And then collectively, on super conscious levels, we are all... So when they discovered Pluto, right? That's when we started releasing all of our deep, dark patterns, because that's what Pluto's all about, digging the, Scorpio, they relate together, because each planet rules a sign. So Scorpio and Pluto are together, right? And then if you have the polarities on a chart, they spin with each other together, and it's almost like Aries and Libra go together. So I'm an Aries, and the two work together to create more of a perfect harmony of who you are. Now planets also move around in transits as well too, and that's the neat part about having your chart read, is you can read your birth chart, which is an amazing experience in itself, and then you can come back and do, where are the planets now? What transits are they going on? So the inner planets, our inner world, that's everything up to Saturn, right? That those ones move just a little bit slower than the other ones. So they may take, so they move quick. So you can check those transits often, which is super cool. And right now we're just speaking about your personal chart, right? We'll get to more in a sec. So you read them and then you figure out where they're moving and then what's happening right now in your phase of that life. For instance, the one that a lot of people are fascinated with, a more common one, is Saturn returns. It does a full loop back to where your sun is in your chart. So your sun is where you were, your sun sign makes up who you are. So I'm Aries, right? Because my sun was in Aries at the time of birth. And the Saturn returns comes back forth. And that's one where you go through a major shift. Usually it's a spiritualizing experience. Some sort of aha moment or big massive change happens in your life in and around the 29, 30, 31, big changes. People merge with partners, fly to the other end of the world and change where they're located, where they live. They have some sort of extrasensory perception opens for them, or it could even be a death in the family, things like that. Just major events go down at that time. I almost like to say that your second Saturn returns is the beginning of you becoming your own divine elder, the start of that process at 58. So, yeah, you have stuff like that going on. So it's good to keep tabulate on that, because while we're down here doing all this awesome stuff that we're doing, working, living, playing, we have the planets up there, and they are doing so much activity, and it's good to keep tabs on it. Plus, every single thing that we do as a human being, this life form, it's all happening out there in terms of what the planets, the signs, the elements represent. Fire being the spirit, right? And air being all of the mental activities. That goes hand in hand with Gemini, right? Pretty cool stuff. And then when you're reading your birth chart as well, you'll have 2 points on there which are called nodes. The south and the north node of the moon. Your past lives, everything you're comfortable with is your south node, and which you brought forth into this incarnation. And then you move up to the north node, which is your most challenging points but bring you the biggest gains, where your soul's evolving to and what you're working towards, and some skills that you could potentially add into the mix. If you have an astrology wheel, hopefully this is pointing the right way. On this side over here, you have your ascendant. On this side, you have your descendant. You have your nadir and your midheaven. On your ascendant, that's your rising sign. So whatever sign is there on the outer edge of the wheel, that is also has a huge portion of your makeup. So the sun, the moon, the nodes, and your ascendant are very key players in all this. And a lot of charts will have Chiron, it'll have a kind of a key thing on it, the circle underneath it and the K on top. That is your astral bridge to the outer dimensions, because it's between Saturn and the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And it's also the wounded healer, where your biggest wound is and to get the biggest gains. That's a key point to also look at as well. Now, that's just where we are now. So astrology also maps out and helps us with the age of Aquarius that we're in. 2200, something years, where the sun, taking the solar system, is going to be in Aquarius for a very long period of time. So, it's you want to know what's going on, right? In terms of what's happening on Earth. And so the age of Aquarius gets mapped out, as well as you have progression charts where your sun moves. That's a whole nother chart that you can do as well. And it lets you know where your sun is in relevance to your days of birth. Another one is every single week, every single day, there is aspects happening. So, quick run through a couple easy ones. So let's say Pluto's flying in and then it gets really close to Aries, super close. So we use degrees in astrology. So if things are kind of under 8 degrees, then they have an aspect to each other. So if they're close together like that, they are conjunct. Means they're working together. If they're on the opposite end of the wheel, same with the degrees, right? Within 8 degrees of each other. So let's say 8 degrees Pluto, 8 degrees Mars, but they're on the other end of the planet, or other end of the wheel, that would be an opposition. And then you have trines, triangular activity, 4 houses apart, always using the orb of 8 degrees or less, right? And that's a harmonious working together. And then you have a square, and they trip each other up, the sharp edges. So all these things are going on up in the sky right now, right? As we talk. And those very things that are going on are happening while we're doing everything else that we're doing. So why wouldn't we want to keep track of what's going on? So you can get these wonderful mini pocket astrology guides. I use the Wee Moon myself, and it gives you a daily readout of what's happening, all the eclipses, all the moon, full moons, and new and full moons, all of the aspects that happen with the planets, or when a planet goes into a new sign, or goes retrograde, which means to apparently move backwards. All that stuff is up, and then you can get a readout of how your year is going, what takes place. Maybe you look back on it a week after and you're like, oh wow, I got in a big argument with somebody, or that was the most fantastical expansion trip I ever went on, Jupiter. And that plays into the spectrum. The universe is an alive being, and astrology helps us constantly read that out. Another fascinating book is the Sabian symbols. Dane Rudyard. What a channeling that was. So I think there's 360 degrees in the wheel, and whatever day we're on, you add it +1. And that degree for the day has a whole slew of messages. Now, you read the book, blow your mind. It's advanced stuff. At the same time, it's probably one of the most relevant pieces of work I have ever encountered. And using that as a tool, and also try to memorize it at the same time as I'm thinking of a few I read. I'm like, what was that again? I could read it 1,000,000 times over and it would blow my mind. Now, also, Pluto has a lot to do with evolutionary astrology as well, too, okay? That's a huge key player in the mix. We have Black Moon Lilith out there. There's a few other asteroids, Juno and some other ones. So some new stuff is being discovered and coming into play, right? So basically, it's a map, it's your navigation, it's your assister in everything that is going on. And say you have two people, and you want to know their relationship and their chart, right? There is a method. I would go seek a full practitioner and astrologer to do that kind of reading for you, but there is a way. I think it's through the South Node, but you can see like, oh, was that my brother in a past life, or were we lovers before? It's super cool. Or was like I giving birth to my dad in a previous incarnation, right? I was his parent. So the story unfolds that way in terms of your soul group and how they meet up as well too. There is absolutely nothing that the signs have, and the depth of them, and the planets, and the elements, and then there's also cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Those run through the chart, starting with Aries. Cardinal, fixed, mutable, all the way around, right? Fixed is like grounded, so you want to build a table, well, we got to make that fixed, right? Mutable is always kind of moving, right? And cardinal is to take charge and launch out there. And the depth of it goes on for hours on end. Days, years, it's endless. It just keeps rolling with us. It's constant wisdom that's sitting right in front of our doorsteps. I know the book Planets in Transit is a gem if you can score that one. So if you get a readout of where your planets are, you can get programs or use online to get a daily readout of what's going on, and just the absolute knowledge is incredible. So once you start throwing like multiple things and you're like, we got a cardinal sign Aries, and we happen to have Neptune in there, and then that's doing a trine to something else. I mean, the dialogue and the equations just keep on going as well too. Another book that I have as well too, 2 books, is the Secret Language of Birthdays, but that's the second one, the Secret Language of Destiny, and that one talks all about your moon nodal positions, the South and the North Node as well too. Those are incredible points. And that book is just, it's endless knowledge. So yeah, just wanted to touch base about how amazing astrology is. Once I came into contact it fully and consciously, maybe about a decade ago, after a few years of being around it, it just sunk in. I'm like, whoa, this is powerful stuff. And then it's been in my life ever since. So if you ever get an opportunity to read your birth chart, do it. Wonderful videos online with masterful reader Kai Pacha, the Pele Report. Those blow my mind. And I also sign up to an email newsletter article from Sarah Varkas, which is super powerful as well too. Appreciating all of the wisdom that comes our way. And astrology is not all, it is all light, but it's also got the reality of things we need to change and things we need to work on as people, communities, and as a super conscious activity for all of humans as we move into the fifth dimension. The fourth density awaits us. Let that sink in for a second. Have a beautiful day, everyone. We'll be chatting with you soon. Peace out.